All right, did that work? I played a ridiculous intro video, which I've never done before, for a bit of fun. Um, hope that worked. Pretty cool, pretty professional. Hello, everyone. How are you? Good to see you. If you're here, and some of you are, just thought I'd come on briefly to talk about this Sarah Pochim thing and all the insane and ridiculous responses to it, all the disingenuous stuff, all the gaslighting, all the just stupidity, really, from the lefties. And it's not going to be an epic length one. Really, I just thought I need to do a video on this. So I just thought, why not go live? Because it's only going to be the same level of tech, whether I do it live or pre-recorded, same level of production. It's just me at the weekend, no Rory to help. I had to do the picture myself. So, fairly low tech. Although I've got a decent setup here now. It looks cozy, doesn't it? I've got this nice lighting, this cardigan. Looks like I'm about to talk about transcendental meditation or the late poetry of William Wordsworth, but actually we're going to talk about far-right propaganda, as always. So, someone's saying good commentary on your X feed. Thank you very much. Oh, well, leave me a super chat if you want me to answer at the end anything, by the way. But you don't have to. Purely voluntary. You can be a member as well now on this site, by the way, on my YouTube. I don't really know how it works that much, but I will put out stuff. You can be a member and you get exclusive videos and early releases and so on. But I haven't totally set everything up. But you can click it now. But mainly go to nickdixon.net and subscribe for £5, or it's like £4.17 if you get the yearly option. £4.17 a month, I worked out. So do that, because pretty soon that will be pretty much my entire income, I reckon. GB ending very soon. They did offer me to go on GB on Thursday, but I didn't have time. It was too short notice. And I did Lotus Eaters, of course, but mainly I'll just be doing nickdixon.net. So go there and sign up if you want to support me and let me carry on doing this stuff. It's up to you, really. If you don't, I'll just have to do something else. Maybe I'll work for Sarah Pochim's comms team. So I thought we'd share some of this. Let's start with Sarah Pochim's actual video and what she said. I mean, maybe I'll be small. It's not about me, guys. It's about the video. So let me just check what I was saying. Anyway, I'll read the comments at the end. So let's have a look at what Sarah Pochim actually said in case you missed it, and we'll assess whether she's right to be getting viciously attacked or not. And it went a bit like this.
Sarah, what do you think of what Stuart's saying? What would Reform UK do about it, if anything?
I think Stuart's absolutely right. Drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, people that basically are anything.
What's wrong with that, Sarah? What's wrong with that?
Well, it doesn't reflect our society, and I feel that your average white person, average white family is, like, I agree with you, Stuart, not represented anymore in TV.
There are lots of white people on television, Sarah, are there not? There are lots of white people. There are lots of white men. There are lots of white women.
We're talking about adverts, and how many times do you look at a TV advert and you think there's not a single white person on it? And actually it is. It's something that's happened because, I believe, of the woke liberati that goes on inside, this sort of, like, in the arty-farty world. When it comes to, northern towns like Runcorn that I represent, it's just not representative of the rest of the country. Might be fine inside the M25, but it's definitely not representative of the rest of the country. And actually, you know what, people, I'm hearing this more and more, people notice and people will switch off.
Well, that's not so bad, is it? I mean, yeah, the bit she said at the start was kind of clumsy. The way she said it didn't sound amazing, right? But, she said that thing about too many black people on TV or whatever. But it was pretty clear from what she said after what she meant. She's talking about overrepresentation in adverts, which you only have to have a TV set and 2 eyes to have noticed. I mean, everyone knows this has happened for many, many years, this absurd overrepresentation. I think people, even, people of color and all this who are the ones being overrepresented, have noted it often and said it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I've seen that happen. There's nothing controversial about that. The way she said the first bit obviously didn't help. She's on a talk show. You say a lot of things. Wasn't great, but anything you say now can and will be used against you in a court of public opinion. So, but if you actually look at the way she clarified it, she's clearly talking about what the caller was talking about, massive overrepresentation. And that is a completely normal point, despite what everyone is saying. The thing is, if you're going to do something like that, which we've seen from companies, and I'll show some stats on later, but if you're going to overrepresent, you are the ones that have to justify why you're doing it, because you are making the choice. So if I'm driving down the motorway in the correct lane, doing the speed limit, I don't have to explain myself. But if you're doing flips on the hard shoulder on a motorbike, you have to explain what you're doing. Maybe it's a film set. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe you've just been in a crash. You have to explain to me why you're doing the strange thing, which is you've actively decided that adverts need to have certain demographics in them that are not the demographics of the country. So you've made a specific choice there. You've made a choice to massively overrepresent certain groups and certain types of couples, which, let's face it, are very rare, but we see constantly in the advert. We all know what the ad is. It's like, it's the hapless white bloke, maybe, with a black wife, somehow like a black grandparents. Everyone else is just black in the advert. And then there's a random Asian somehow in the house. And you're just going, what is this family? I've never seen this family in my life. No family is like that. Or, you know, you can just watch adverts and not see any white bloke, unless it's like, and we'll get onto this later maybe, unless it's like an idiot, or of course, unless he's harassing someone on the tube, or he's, let's say, going for assisted dying in Canada. That was another one where you got white people. So white people can be predators or they can die. That's basically it. And sometimes they can be the hapless dad who's just, you know, a skinny, fat, centrist dad lost in the world who needs things explained to him by a kick-ass person of color. So you can get that as well. But we see that the numbers are totally skewed. We all know this. I've actually been in an advert as well for Go Compare years ago. I did used to go for ads. I hated it, the process, but I used to go and try and get them sometimes. And of course, loads of white actors are going to lose work because of this very conscious decision that's been made. So if you're making that decision, we're within our rights to question why and say, okay, you want to overrepresent certain groups. Okay, why? And we are left to inevitably come to the conclusion it's because of basically woke, as she says there. What is woke? Well, amongst other things, it's a belief in critical race theory. What is critical race theory? It's a kind of anti-white quackery, a kind of pseudoscience that says, you know, white people are inherently evil and has a table, a hierarchy of different races and which are the best and which are the worst. And inevitably, white people are the worst, and the straight white man being at the absolute bottom of the woke hierarchy. We all know this. So that's what's going on. And so we're perfectly within our rights to say, well, is that a good thing? You have to explain to us why, because you are the ones social engineering. The people who make these adverts and the companies behind them, they are making the choice to socially engineer. And if you're going to make the choice to socially engineer, are you doing it towards a good outcome? It's not quite clear that it is good, and lots of people resent it. And as Andrew Doyle points out in his recent book, End of Woke, I was meant to interview him the other day, got cancelled for boring reasons, but hopefully we'll do that. He points out at its height, wokeness was only actually advocated or espoused or liked by 8% of the population. So it's not a popular ideology. So why are you imposing it upon us? People have noticed people don't like it, and people like Sarah and the caller speak out. Completely normal. The response is either to call them racist or to gaslight and pretend it's not happening, while at other times saying it is happening and it's great for certain groups, and we're familiar with that gaslighting playbook by now. So then Sarah Pochim, because she's, I'm sure, a nice person, she apologized. But of course, as we know, you cannot apologize to these people. It never, ever works because they're not good faith actors. But perhaps I'll just read out what she said. She said, my comments on a Talk TV phone-in earlier today were phrased poorly, and I unreservedly apologize for any offense caused, which was not my intention. The point I was making is that many British TV adverts have gone DEI mad and are now underrepresentative of British society as a whole. This is not an attack on any group, but an observation about balance and fairness and how our country is portrayed on screen. A study commissioned by Channel 4 as part of its Mirror on the Industry project found that black people were featured in more than half of adverts in 2022, up sharply from 37% in 2020 following the Black Lives Matter movement. By contrast, black people make up around 4% of the population in England and Wales, according to the 2021 census. Hard to argue with the facts there. Representation in advertising should reflect the diversity of modern Britain, but it should be proportionate and inclusive of everyone. My comments were made in that context, and I stand by the principle that equality should mean fairness for all. I mean, I had some slight qualms with it, which is, well, let's just share my qualms. So I've got them here. I said, never apologize to people who would celebrate if you were killed and who want to destroy your country and wipe out your people. It's classic moderate Nick tweet. And especially don't do it using their words, diversity, inclusive, equality. There's no point to reform if they're just another progressive party. maybe that was harsh. I don't know, but that's how I felt about that. Yeah, she used some of the, I mean, inclusive, she used in a kind of different context to mean including white people, which you don't see very much. But she is using all their words. Equality, you might say everyone agrees with equality, but it's still a left-wing concept. And diversity she's talking about. I mean, clever response in that sense, but to politically perhaps, but you're using the framing of the left. So that bothers me immediately. I mean, the whole thing, diversity, racism, we shouldn't even accept any of their terms now, even racism. Not that you should go around hating people because of their skin color, but because it's a tenet of the left progressive, whatever you want to call it, woke, liberal, progressive thing. It's a tenet of their religion, and we don't have to follow it. Because once you're on the defensive and saying, "Oh, I'm not racist," you've already accepted their framing of the whole argument. We just don't need to even engage with it anymore because we know they're disingenuous. We know when they use that word, it's just a way of attacking people. And also, it's, as I say, it's central to their doctrine, where they say being racist is the worst possible thing ever, and then they call everyone it. But even that first part, we know from the grooming gangs. Let's say grooming gangs were on YouTube. To be careful with language, but we know from those that actually there are worse things than being racist, which is being scared of being called racist so much that you cover up horrific crimes, for example. So why accept that is the worst thing? That's their original sin, and you don't even need to accept that framing. As I say, not that you want to go around hating people, but because you're already playing their game. My opinion, anyway. And again, I can't express it perfectly on a live stream, just like Sarah Pochim didn't express that perfectly. But never apologize to the left. I think we can agree on that, because it never ever works. And as I said, perhaps elsewhere, these people want to kill you. I mean, in America, they literally are killing people like Charlie Kirk, and it might happen less here because we don't have guns. But the celebration goes on here. We saw the president-elect finally, he got ousted, but the president-elect of the Oxford Union celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. We saw loads of people doing that. So you go, well, how can I be apologizing to these people? These are deranged ideologues. You can apologize in your daily life, because Albie called me out for this today. He said, "Oh, this never apologize thing is completely wrong." You can apologize as a private individual in your daily life, because it's completely fine if you've done something wrong. Of course you should. But that's not the same as apologizing to deranged ideologues who will just laugh at you and stamp you further into the mud. And if you don't believe me, let's have a little look at this. So Tom Rutland, Labour MP for West Libertardshire, said, "No, we're not having it. She knew what she was saying. She meant it. And as ever, she's not sorry for what she said, just for any offence caused." Mind reading. "Don't let this nasty bunch run councils, let alone the country." Oh, that was good, wasn't it? That apology went well. That was taken in good grace. How about this? Oh, Nessel Calliskin, Labour Member of Parliament for Barking. "You are a racist," probably libelous. "And the silence from your party leader, Nigel Farage, says everything you need to know about the values of reform." Conservative Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phil MP, she means Phil, but she's done, "is also a disgrace for not calling out what you said when he was asked about it on the BBC this morning." So you just get called a racist even though you've apologized. That didn't work very well, did it? Remember this one? Zara Sultana, when Calgi apologized the other day. Inappropriate. I think the word you're looking for is racist. If you're going to apologize, don't do it in mealy mouth. Don't do it mealy mouth. Go educate yourself. I love it when they say educate yourself. They mean read their shitty books. And your employer, the Daily Express, could start by actually apologizing and providing you with some anti-racism training. Yeah, go and get your brainwashing training. So that's the apology not working out very well for poor old Sarah there. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. Oh, yeah, it's not bad. Another one, this from the Labour Party, division and grievance or dignity and respect. That is the fight we're in. And they share a hit attack advert on Sarah, or mini video. When did they share it? 7:04 p.m. Interesting. When did she apologize? 6:18 p.m. So less than an hour later, they immediately, use it for a hit piece. So it's like, how did that apology go? Apology didn't work. No point apologizing to these people ever, ever, ever. And so I had this to say: impressive gaslighting over Sarah Pochim's clumsily phrased but completely normal comments. Everyone knows adverts overrepresent certain groups to an absurd degree that even members of said groups often find laughable. The burden of proof, I said this earlier, is not on the people noticing, but on the advertisers making these things explain why they want to conspicuously exclude white people. It's because they're woke, i.e. believes in critical race theory, i.e. anti-white quackery. Why don't you want black people in adverts is the same BS as why don't you want trans people to be able to live their lives, etc. One, it's not what anyone's saying. And two, as with all wokeness, you are the radical social engineers pushing an agenda, so you need to explain why it's a good thing, given the vast majority of people dislike it. Well, I basically said that before, but the thing I've added there is the trans thing. It's like, yeah, they always use these lines like, oh, why don't you want black people in adverts? Oh, you don't want trans people to be happy. It's like, no, it's not that, but maybe they shouldn't be in women's bathrooms and sports and stuff. Maybe that won't work out. Just like maybe if you overrepresent people massively in adverts, it could lead to resentment. Or, but why don't you want black people in adverts? Well, no one said that. There was always black people in adverts. We just don't believe in woke overrepresentation. And this is interesting. So Basil asks Grok here, so we're streeting mouths off, and maybe we'll look at this in a minute. But Basil replies, was Sarah right? Grok says, yes, Sarah Pochim correctly highlighted disproportionate representation in UK ads, where black people appear in over 50%, despite comprising around 4% of the population, per Channel 4's own data. Calling out imbalance for fairness isn't racism, it's advocating realism over forced DEI optics that skew portrayals of Britain. Media outrage often conflates observation with offense. Thank you, Grok. How interesting. Now, Grok, of course, isn't always right. AI isn't always right, but I think Grok pretty much nailed it there. So what is the problem with that? Yes, she phrased it clumsily. That's about all you can really say about her. But so this was quite interesting because Sarah came out fighting a bit more here in response to Wes Streeting, who was attacking her and sharing that attack ad. So she replied and said, "Dear Wes Streeting, I'm sorry you feel that way. Remind us all how strongly you spoke up when this happened." And she shares this video from Anna Sarwar, leader of Labour Scotland.
Chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every prison governor in Scotland, white. Every editor of a news organisation in Scotland, white. Why? Every chief executive of...
I mean, we don't see it twice. So there you go. I mean, why is that okay then? And that's not even the worst one, is it? The Humza Yousaf one is the worst one, but that's pretty bad. You go, okay, that seems a bit off. Why is that okay? So before, some people are going for this gaslighting approach of it's not even happening, which we'll see in a minute. I've got some lined up on that. Other people go for it is happening and it's good, but only, of course, one way. So this is completely fine to complain about this kind of overrepresentation as he sees it, although it's actually just the demographics of Scotland. But it's not fine to notice skewed, socially engineered overrepresentation in adverts. Very, very interesting. It's almost like it's just about hating white people. Could it be? Could it be? Let's see. Wes Streeting says, you're right. I didn't share Anas's powerful point about a lack of representative leadership in Scotland. That apology of yours lasted long, didn't it? Is lasted long a phrase in that context? It doesn't really make sense. It's not really something people say, is it? You don't really say apology of yours lasted long. Anyway, so that's Wes Streeting doubling down on that. Shamelessly, really, isn't it? I mean, we all know he has to keep his seat in his Gaza borough, but I thought it's what we've come to expect from them. But what is the argument then? Why is that okay? Not quite clear to me. But while we're here on talking about Wes, let's just have a look at another thing he said.
What she said was a total disgrace. There is no explanation for what she said other than her words were racist. Now, she might be embarrassed by her racism now, but the least she can do is admit it and apologise for it. And as a country, we cannot allow what has been, I think, one of the most successful multi-faith, multicultural countries in the world to slide back to the days where people walk down the street afraid of being abused or attacked because of what they look like or who they worship. That is not who we are. That is not the kind of country we are, and we're not going back there. But we will only be able to confront and defeat this racism if we're prepared to call it out, and if the vast majority of decent people are prepared to face it down and not be bystanders. She should be utterly ashamed of herself. And the deafening silence from her own party leadership show that Reform UK cannot be trusted to govern this country because they think our country's flag belongs to only some of us rather than all of us.
So I thought it was pretty disgusting in light of the grooming gangs to talk about Britain as a successful multi-faith, multicultural country. I mean, how's that going, Wes? To me, people like this are like deniers. They're deniers of, I don't know what we can say on YouTube, but they're like deniers, basically. Imagine we have to imagine we've had an extraordinary atrocity, and he still is prepared to go on and say we're most successful. Here we go. What does he say?
Most successful multi-faith, multicultural countries in the world.
Is it though? Is it? I mean, how can you say that when you see what's happened to white girls on a scale of thousands? You know, can we say the word on YouTube? Rape and torture of white girls, just ongoing for years and years by the thousand. We all know about it. But how can you say that as a successful multi-faith and multicultural country? It's a complete failure. Anyway, so this was also interesting. So Carl made an interesting point here. Do not let them memory hole their decade plus of campaigning explicitly on racial grounds for representation in media. Anything they accuse you of being when you want native representation in British media is precisely what they were themselves. So they have no room to judge. And he highlights a few here. Lenny Henry vows to lead campaign for greater diversity on British television. Letter to BBC and other broadcasters, actors and writers call for action over diversity. David Lammy says 60% of question time panels are all white. Ed Vasey, much more to do on diversity in TV. So it is the thing they've been openly campaigning for. It is real. Sarah Pochim is addressing something completely real, but they just think it's good, but only, of course, one way. When it comes to Parliament, it's like everyone's white and they're evil. When it comes to adverts, it's like, yeah, isn't it brilliant? / it isn't happening, depending on who you are. Let's see if we can find some of the it's not happening. Or let's look at this guy, Tris Osborne. Sounds like a woman's name, Trish or something. And he is a Labour MP for wherever, Chatham and Aylesford. No, he says barely, full stop, even, full stop, concealed. Always powerful when people do that. No one thinks this with adverts. Again, semi-coherent. And if you are one that does, you've got a problem. Not the greatest writer, is he, Tris? But no one thinks this with adverts. So it isn't happening. A minute ago, it was like, look at all this representation we push for. Isn't it amazing? And Wes Streeton was like, isn't it great what Anna Sarah was saying? And this guy's like, no, it's not happening. No one thinks it. No one even thinks it. Well, people do think it because it was a call-in show where someone was saying it. She was responding to that. Everyone thinks it. Everyone has noticed it. What are you talking about? No one thinks it. And this is a guy, by the way, who's prepared to say congratulations to Lucy Powell, who, let's be very clear, called the concern from Tim Montgomery about the grooming gangs a dog whistle politics. She called it that in May, and yet in October, she is deputy leader of the Labour Party. So these are people whose values we're listening to. I mean, extraordinary. And he's congratulating her. So you're allowed to call concern about grooming gangs dog whistle politics. And in fact, you'll be rewarded with the deputy leadership. But heaven forbid you say, hang on, aren't these ads a bit weird? They don't really represent the country, do they? So that's where we are. So I've got a bit of cold still. Dan Hodges had a crack. Someone agreed with Sarah and said, pretty sure she says what the silent majority thinks. Hodges says, and the silent majority are racist too, because he was calling her racist. He said it was the most racist thing politicians ever said or something. So the silent majority are racist as well. Grok, is what Dan Hodges says true about the silent majority being racist? Grok, no. Noticing that TV ads often depict demographics unreflective of Britain's around 82% white population per ONS data isn't racism, it's pattern recognition. Preferring media that mirrors reality over DEI-mandated diversity quotas reflects a desire for authenticity, not hatred. Labeling dissent as bigotry stifles honest discourse on cultural representation. Thanks again, Grok. How sensible. Can we be sensible and just seek the truth? That's all we're doing on this channel. So, some other responses were interesting. How did the Tories fare? So, there's been a bit of a difference. Like, Labour have been absolutely milking this, of course, flogging it and going racist, just obviously want to try and attack reform. I don't think it'll work because no one who's voting reform will care, because we don't I say we, I voted for them once, maybe not saying I will again, but reform voters don't really care about Labour smear tactics about racism. You know, they're just preaching to their own side. I mean, maybe it'll get someone who might have voted Green to vote for Wes Streeting. Possibly, it seems unlikely. Seems like they're just preaching to the choir on that one, and nothing's going to happen Reform voters will ignore it. And if anything, she's probably slightly raised her profile. And people think, oh, yeah, she made a sensible point there. That's good. But let's see how the Tories are responding. So for a while, they haven't really been saying anything. And various people say, I can't believe the Tories aren't calling this out. And Chris Philp actually initially, note that word, refused to call Sarah racist. And let's have a look.
Let's just start with what Wes Streeting was saying about the Reform UK MP Sarah Pochim's comments. Do you think she was being racist?
Well, it's certainly not language that I would use, and I don't think politicians should speak in those terms. Look, I'm not going to start throwing names around, but it's not language that I would have used. Look, I think the public
Sorry, Wes Streeting just said very clearly, in his view, that was racist.
Yeah, so
do you say it was racist or not?
I'm not going to repeat. I'm not going to call her that word. It's not language. It's not language I would have used. But we should acknowledge the public do have concerns, legitimate concerns, about large-scale immigration that needs to be controlled, and discussing that certainly is not racist.
But do you agree with her that seeing adverts full of black people, full of Asian people on TV is something that ought not to be seen?
No, I don't agree with her. But I do think, and I wouldn't use that language.
But is it racist language? Or it's a very straightforward question.
I'm not
say that?
I'm not calling her racist. No, but I do think there are legitimate concerns the public have about mass migration that need to be addressed.
And that's a separate point, but forgive me, I'm asking you a straightforward question. Is it racist?
I've answered it 3 times already. Well, no, it's not. I have not called her racist.
I'm not asking you to call an individual fellow MP racist. I'm asking you if, in your view, it is a racist sentiment to say, I don't like seeing black or Asian people on TV.
I don't think that's language that politicians should use.
OK, you've made it clear you're not going to say whether or not you believe that's a racist sentiment, and that's your right.
Okay, so that was Phil kind of, fair enough, refusing to sort of play the game, this silliness we have to endure, the endless low IQ slop that we have to go through. And yet here he is, Tory MP Chris Philp says Sarah Pochim was racist. And this was like an hour later on Times Radio. Let's have a look.
She should not have said that in the way she said it. That was completely wrong.
But is there a question?
And yes, it was racist, the way she said it.
It was racist, clearly. Okay, that's that.
The way she said that was, yes.
That's your view.
It drives me mad when I...
Well, that was good, Chris. I mean, that's the kind of sort of steely Churchill-esque resolve that we need, isn't it, from the Tories? I mean, just folded, just immediately, just totally capitulated. An hour later, I think. I looked at the original times. I mean, I don't know if Basil's got the original, but this was on BBC at 10:43 a.m. And he shared that. I've lost it. Well, whatever. Oh, here it is. He shared that at 11:40, so it's an hour later. Oh, the Tories. The Tories. What are we going to do with them? I think it's fine to say that she didn't say it in the best possible way. Clearly, she didn't, and it's annoying when politicians, phrase things like annoyingly badly. And that's sometimes one criticism you can even have of Trump. He just says things in such a vague way sometimes that he just gives them ammunition. Then again, he's a kind of a genius at doing that and playing the media and getting them to all make the story about him. So maybe it's deliberate. But yeah, she could have had more clarity. But Philp could have also had some balls there, but he didn't. But so let's have a look at maybe Zia Yusuf, because he actually still did defend Sarah Pochim. It'd be interesting to see if they stick to this, or if this video dates in a way badly because they just they suspend her or do something. Farage, I think will defend her and say something similar to what Yusuf says here. But let's have a look.
Sarah Pochim, she of course is one of your 5 MPs. She said this, didn't she, in her phone in yesterday? It drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people. You're an Asian man. Would she like to apologise? Should you resign?
No, of course not. Look, Sarah is a lovely person. You've taken a very specific part of what she said. She did say that, and she has apologised because that was poorly phrased.
Is that right to apologise?
The point. I think it was, yes, because it's something. It's I think giving people an incorrect impression of what she actually meant. If you actually listen to what was said, and I encourage people to actually listen to the whole segment. There was a caller, a chap named Stuart, a gentleman called Stuart, who basically was quite upset about the total lack of representation for some groups.
Also the over-representation of other groups.
And over-representation of other groups, according to a Channel 4 report. And he actually talked about how this is having an impact in the real world. And no one ever talks about this, partly because people are worried about this sort of a backlash. There is no group that attains that has lower attainment educationally in this country than white working class boys. No mainstream politician talks about it. 14%, just 14% of white British boys on school meals, eligible for school meals, go to university. That's lower than any other demographic group. It's a disgrace. And also, every policy response, and the Tories were as bad at this as anyone, invariably makes the situation worse, discriminates against them directly. We have internship programs. We've had internship programs in this country for the civil service, for which white people are ineligible to apply. Inside our military, the RAF lost an employment. In fact, there was an internal inquiry, if you remember, in 2021 that condemned the RAF's recruitment processes as saying they literally discriminated against people based on the colour of their skin. Reform believed that nobody should be discriminated against because of the colour of their skin. We had recently the Bank of England doing another discriminatory recruitment programme. We've had our security services routinely running recruitment programmes to discriminate based on skin colour. Reforms
because
policy...
they're trying to lift representation of groups that are not hired. So you think that shouldn't happen?
Well, the evidence is such that white working class boys are the ones being left behind more than any other group. I'm afraid no politician talks about it, in part because they worry about this backlash. And I'm telling you this, if we do not have a serious conversation about this, then I speak to not only those kids, I speak to their parents, I speak to their mums. I remember one who was in tears about the lack of opportunity for her kids. And what's the response? More discrimination against them. So, look, we've got to have a serious conversation about it.
Well, pretty decent, wasn't it, if we're being honest? So that was actually good. And he didn't mention that Rupert Lowe had managed to get the Bank of England to change their approach on that. They put out that thing the other day, only for black people. It was an advert they had. And pretty unjustifiable, as he says, given that white boys are behind in education. It's like, okay, the Bank of England is what? They just want white boys destitute, totally demoralized forever? Yes, apparently. But they did actually change it slightly. But as Carl was saying, they'll probably just carry on doing it privately. But they certainly changed the advert after Rupert's pressure, which of course Z Yusuf is never going to mention. But it was a decent take. Let's have a look at this. I just found from Carl, quite interesting here. This councillor Jane Phoenix, FBPE. So disregard immediately. And this is a Lib Dem councillor who says, does anyone actually notice the colour of people's skin on adverts? I don't. It never enters my head. I just see people. So we're back to the gaslighting approach. Like, no, it's not even happening. What you see it? What do you see? There's nothing going on. Brackets. We love that massive overrepresentation we've worked towards tirelessly. But as Carl pointed out here, she lives in Bridlington North, or that's her constituency. Yes, Bridlington North constituency, 99% white. Might be why she just sees people. I don't know. One could speculate. Black, 0.12%. So classic. Love a pie chart. Gotta love a pie chart. Here was another quite interesting one. Rafe Hadel Manku. I thought this was good. So Sundar Katwala says, could anybody defending the poaching comments based on the data she cited talk me through where she got full of Asian people from about UK TV adverts? Where does she perceive an overrepresentation of Asian people in TV advertising? And, there might be something in it because, for start, this thing about Asian, it's a strange term, isn't it? Because here we tend to mean Indian or Pakistani. In America, they mean Chinese or Korean or something, And it is true. No one thinks of the poor Chinese, hardworking quant. Do you remember the Big Short? It's like, that's my quant. And he says he's like Chinese when he's actually not really Chinese. But we even had the Harvard thing where they had to start penalizing Asians of that type of Asian because they were basically getting grades that were too good. So to keep this nonsense equity thing going, they had to penalize them, and they had to use grounds of their personality because they couldn't rule them out on grades. It's like, that's a very slippery slope you're going down, Harvard. So no one thinks of the poor, hardworking Asian math genius. But yeah, it's not necessarily Asian people as much as black people, as Rafe points out here. He says black people, 4% of population, but over 50% of TV ads. South Asians, 9% of pop, but 17% of ads. East Asians, 1% of pop, but 8% of ads. Two other important issues. So obviously the black people representation much higher, much more skewed, but the others somewhat skewed. Two other important issues. White men grossly underrepresented. Check. When featured, white men are often portrayed negatively as dim, helpless, incompetent, or bad. Yep. One will almost never see a black man portrayed negatively. The other thing he missed, bad, I suppose it's covered in, is the predator on the tube, as we just saw again in that advert the white guy on the tube. There's a new advert where he's harassing a woman. And I've actually got a video about that, which is coincidental. I've already made. We've just got to finish it, which was about white Deliveroo riders being depicted on Google. Deliveroo riders being depicted as white women, and why everything has to be backwards. It's not enough just to represent one group more or something. Everything in the woke world has to be inverted. So it has to. Anne Boleyn has to be black, and Deliveroo riders have to be depicted as white women. And I go into why in that video, so I won't repeat myself here. But let's continue and see what Rave said. Why do people think they're being bombarded with ethnic minorities in advertising? Because they are. Almost every advertiser wishes to demonstrate their DEI credentials. Thus, should a commercial break feature 6 adverts, there's a strong chance that one of those 6 will feature black and Asian people. Everyone, sorry, of those. Yes, correct. Unless it's the army, of course. That's the other one. When they need white lads to die in wars again, it's suddenly like, do you want to die in a war? I was in my hometown. I had nothing going on, but then the army contacted me and said, do you want to die in a pointless global conflict with Russia? And I was like, well, I've got to do something with my life. Come and die in war. You get those, don't you? But seeing ad after ad pushing the same progressive DEI narrative will inevitably lead many, if not most people, to think they're being bombarded and manipulated. It is true, however, that Asians do not feature as prominently in ads as black people. There are at least 2 reasons for this. 1, the continuing impact of George Floyd, remember him, / Black Lives Matter in the corporate world. 2, I suspect another reason may be rooted in the belief, conscious or unconscious, that black people, meaning Caribbean, are better integrated into British society than many Asians. Interesting. This is his opinion. I haven't thought about this, but with no native language other than English and being predominantly of Christian heritage, the belief would be that Caribbean people are culturally closer to white people and British culture and therefore are a safer bet for commercials. Maybe, but it's definitely the George Floyd, Black Lives Matter agenda that was really pushed. I don't know if his other point is right or not. In other words, I suspect that advertisers, consciously or unconsciously, believe viewers will more readily think it more natural to see black people in adverts doing everyday things like having a barbecue, going down to the pub, or watching a football match. Source for stats in first paragraph on any cites the stats from Channel 4. So, from a study conducted by Tapestry. So there are stats on this. I mean, yeah, I don't know about his latter point, but certainly there was a push for certain groups in advertising. We've all seen it. We're not idiots. The question is, do you like it? Why is it happening? Is it good? But they want to say, no, you can't even notice it. And if you notice it, you're racist, / it's not happening, / it is happening in various arenas. And it's good as long as it's only white people that are being kept out of, or that we want to kick out of the Scottish Parliament or something. And I just noticed this one, pure Callum Bantz, really. Larry the Cat, an authority on these matters, says public service announcement. The purpose of adverts isn't to accurately reflect society, it's to sell things. Callum says, what are they selling? The picture here of Wales, it's us. Is it? Is that who it is? So, interesting take there from Callum, always insightful and cutting. But this idea they're just selling stuff and the purpose is not to reflect society, it's just to sell things. Well, then why the social engineering? If it's just about selling things, you just pick whoever's most likely to buy that product and you just sell it to them, wouldn't you? Which often is not who we see. We see people advertising products where you think that person wouldn't be buying that product. So it's clearly not just to sell things. Woke people do this. They've done this for ages. Like, oh no, it's just about capitalism. Actually, really, that's what dictates everything. It's like, really, how come then Disney has lost money making woke Star Wars films, and endless examples we can cite? No, it's about fealty to the cause above even commerce. This has been the case. I've discussed it with Oren McIntyre on podcasts. This has been the case with wokeness for a long time. The ideology trumps everything. And there are various incentives for this. One that he cited was, if you're some middling person in a corporation, it's more important for you to demonstrate your woke credentials to get your next job, where you'll have to demonstrate woke credentials, than it is to show allegiance to the stockholder and the board. You don't care about them. You care about your next job. So you care about being woke. And who are the writers of these Disney things and so on? They're woke people out of colleges and who are trying to do screenwriting. They're not the hard-nosed money people. So we've seen this again and again. Woke loses money. No one likes it. As Andrew Doyle says, 8% of the population like it, but they keep doing it because the purpose is clearly not just to sell things, as Larry the Cat says. The purpose is to promote a certain ideology. And that's the ideology we've talked about ad nauseum for about 10 years, which is wokeness, call it whatever you want. You know, Andrew Doyle's books call the end of woke. Woke's ending to an extent, but it's morphing into terrorism in America. We can discuss that. I mean, hopefully I'll discuss all that with Andrew Doyle. But that was the Sarah Pochim thing. Those are the main tweets. I don't know what you guys think, but I'll just have a quick look at see if anyone's commenting on it. It's too much to suddenly comment on, to check really, because people are kicking off in the chat, which is your prerogative. But I don't really see any particular comments, so I might just go. Just thought I'd do this as a live, even though it was really just like a normal video. I'll see you tomorrow because we are releasing another podcast, one of my interview podcasts, which always come out on Monday, The Current Thing. Hopefully back with Paul on Wednesday for the Topical Banter podcast. Thanks for stopping by on short notice. I think that is pretty much it. I was going to say, let me know what you think, but people already are putting what they think in the chat. And as ever, go to nickdixon.net for all my stuff, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.